in the topiaries. Oh my God. I swear to, I'm not a big chapstick user, but this Choco Nana chapstick that I'm holding right now is utterly divine. I thought I would never find a chapstick that was more like just heavenly to me than a strawberry chapstick. But they did it, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, in the year 2025 with this wonderful thing that it's called Choco Nana chapstick. Find it at your local supermarket or pharmacy or Walmart or Amazon. No, don't find it on Amazon. That's stupid to order on Amazon. Don't do that. Don't be that lazy, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen. All right, let's get started here. We are on a little bit of a schedule as well, first of all, speaking of schedule, let's look at what the fuck day it is and what time it is, shall we? As we do at the beginning of each episode of Open Mic Live with Mike George. It is now presently it's Saturday, the 13th of September, 2025. Um, at about 10 past, well, we'll say 10 until 5. Uh, exactly 30 minutes following the magical hour of 4:20 p.m., otherwise known as 1620. And boy, did I have, I think I actually smoked my bowl right on time too. God, would you believe it? Right on the hour, right on the minute, 4:20. And I have to say, for all the things that have just gone behind schedule this week, this frenzied week of mine, I'm happy that something finally occurred on schedule, especially that magical hour. So here we are. Here I am, artificially intelligent because of that. And so I would pose, okay, we got to continue. If you'll recall from our last episode from the Columbus Metropolitan Library as well, you'll you'll note that we spent a lot of time defining what intelligence is. And there was a lot of I kind of left it open to the class here on what some of the questions that emerged, but we did get some things straight. Okay, we did get some answers. So one, and thank you, by the way, to David Green for providing a lot of those answers. In fact, I think almost all of the answers. Uh, you know, we sort of agreed here now on the last episode that intelligence is several critical components. It's acquiring, retaining, and applying information. So, and there's that definition kind of we sort of further slice and dice that definition this way. I mean, we sort of suggested that it's task oriented, goal oriented, that especially in today's age of just infinite amounts of information out there, a lot of which is complete utter bullshit, most importantly, I think. um yeah, a really big part of the task involves having a task, um and having sort of a direction for that knowledge to kind of get us, to kind of get yourself to, to kind of have a uh, a directional component to the vector that the sum goal of this intelligence, I guess, gives us, as far as aspirations and self-identity and such. Now, we didn't quite distinguish here clearly on whether it includes awareness. I don't think it does. Intelligence kind of exists outside the scope, I think, of awareness and and consciousness. However, they are inexorably tied. They're linked. One could say there's sort of a feedback loop between them all and other things. So, circling back around to artificial intelligence, first of all, here's another kind of, I would say, maybe kind of a funny definition of artificial intelligence. The Intel plant that was supposed to be installed in Columbus, Ohio, right outside in the cute little suburb of New Albany, maybe Johnstown specifically, but oh gosh, I have to say, like, I was really excited for this thing to come in. It was really humongous, first of all, just impressive by sort of today's engineering, I guess, definitions and kind of like, accolades. But it was just, it's obviously as a resident of Columbus, Ohio, I live for economic growth in this fine area. Something's got to keep something's got to keep Mama Chase fed as far as Columbus is concerned. It's nice to have, at least to live in a city that's not bankrupt and is not trying to raise their taxes to unsustainable levels because it doesn't know what to do with the money we already gave them. So, I mean, it's nice to, if I'm being very frank here, it's well, that's a little bit sideway, but it was just a bad joke that was probably made a little bit too soon in the light of uh, Intel's recent little debacles. Digressing. Um, Artificial intelligence. Let's see. First of all, let's take a look at let's look down below to see if there are any comments. No, no stars, no comments. You guys, haven't we talked about this? Gosh, you guys are so stingy. Why? What do I have to do to get you guys to give me some stars for fuck's sake? Ugh, monetization. It's such a silly little like game that Facebook has concocted to like keep us from rolling on the hamster wheel to oblivion. Uh, so digressing. Artificial intelligence, AI. So one of the interesting questions that I had for y'all that remains unanswered, well, I think I did answer it after all, was is TurboTax considered AI according to today's definitions? Because I kind of argue, we're treating artificial intelligence as this sort of like brand new topic that we've never dealt with before, but we have in some small way. Like, come on, you guys remember the Clippy in Microsoft Word? Like, again, 1995 Microsoft Word. He was always there to help, you know? He was always just there, flipping along at the top right of your Microsoft Word page while you're frantically trying to finish that essay that should have been turned in yesterday. Um, he's just there to help. And I love that about Clippy. Don't you? I mean, I don't know if I'd argue he was intelligent. Yeah, he was intelligent. I mean, he knew that you needed help and he was there to help. But like, I think I had a lot of people sort of push back against against the notion that Clippy was artificially intelligent. I mean, he was intelligent to at least know when to show up and say he needed help or that he's here to help. But I guess he wasn't intelligent enough to always know if you needed help or not, or whether you wanted to help, or really if you needed to help, or really if you just got more in the way than really what was helpful in a practical aspect. Uh, I mean, I guess if you're in the throes of like an overdue assignment in which you're fucked, like just in any sort of realistic consequence of positive value on, but he was here to help, at least to say he was here to help, and that was sometimes helpful emotionally when it felt like nobody else was there to help to help me get that assignment and the teacher not hate me. Well, or really just fuck me over. So, but yeah, I mean, Clippy wasn't intelligent enough to know when we did want to help. And that's, I guess why, based on that, I would agree. So, Clippy, I'm sorry you didn't make the cut. You're not artificially intelligent at all. You're just an annoying little icon I have to X out. Sorry, I have to be real. So, anyways, now that Clippy's gone, we're left with TurboTax. Now, TurboTax was kind of, it was useful. It was a useful sort of array of processes that was carried out, was executed just simply by typing out your tax information on a spreadsheet, essentially. Now, mind you, it made it look like it was like a form or something. It was a form that goes onto an Excel. It was basically just a Google Access form or a Microsoft Access form. Uh, yeah, and that's I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. And mind you, it was extremely useful because I wasn't intelligent enough at the time to know how to make my own Microsoft Access form. So it did that work for me, and I'm grateful for that. Uh, it was a tool, and I think a really good example here actually now beyond this is a calculator. A calculator is not in most cases intelligent. A calculator is not gonna learn anything from your usage of it. It already knows how to carry out the basic operations of math. And I say basic operate, and that includes where that does include um, more elegant, I guess, more, it's kind of, yeah, you have operations are that consist of operations. You have compound, you have you have sort of what the fuck am I trying to say? Not composite operations, but you know what I mean. Operations consisting of other operations. All right. Well, generally in math, you kind of portray with a parentheses sign. I guess, given that the parentheses encompasses a single operation. Anyways, digressing. So calculator is a good example of something that's not AI, not artificial intelligence. And remember back then, kids, when everybody thought calculators were going to take people's jobs away, and it did. Because it's actually quite interesting to look back to technical life, like sort of the science and technology domain, including the government, such mind you, including like, say the space program, in the context of how we did this without calculators. It's fascinating. Um, and it's actually like there's a really good film that features this. It's called oh shit, I gotta remember now. And and it features African American women, a lot of them. Uh, we they really sat in the seats. They did they literally did they crunched the numbers, literally. Um, and they did so just using like a little, like, almost like a typewriter, I think. It was like something almost like a typewriter, like a calculator typewriter, I guess. What your like something like your accountant uses, except mechanical. And it's quite fascinating. I encourage you all to see it. It's called Numbers. Fuck it. There you go. It's called Numbers, the film. And I think it's a film. It might be a television series. I think it's a film. Yeah. It's one of the sort of the work having led organizations and such. And most of the organizations I've led, mind you, were university student organizations. All right. And a couple like yeah, and then I did project management in sort of the corporate sector and sort of my adult work, my professional career and such. And how should I say this? Like, hmm, kind of circling back to I guess how we talk about racism and shit, and like, sort of how we talk about all those social all the social divisions that kind of try to undo our national unity, our national sense of purpose. There's little divisions that kind of litter the field. Everything's become about identity politics, okay? And I think identity politics is just a synonym for the oppression Olympics. It forces us to engage in a way in which it's all about me. It's all about me. It's all about my problems. It's all about my issues and struggles and stuff. And mind you, that's part of the story. Yes, it is you. It ought to be. In a little bit. But we have to remember that in a country like ours, where you have 300 million voices in that regard, there has to be a system for, there has to be some way to sort all that out, right? Wouldn't you say? And I mean, no matter how you try to be politically correct about it, there must be a way to prioritize who has it worse and who deserves a little bit more love, at least at this, in the present context. So, without getting into all the complicated kind of heuristics involved in that, let's just kind of zoom out for a moment and look at just the simple notion of ignorance again. All right. How do we get somebody that we're talking to be not a racist, not, like how do we enlighten people a little bit in a way that doesn't piss them off? And here's a very simple step, I think, to that is, we talk about this until I'm accustomed to talking about this or hearing about discussing these little rules of engagement, if you will, in the context of the queer community. All right, but I think these universal rules of respect and engagement can exist. I mean, they ought to be in every goddamn civil discourse discussion out there, or really any sort of meeting. Along with Robert's Rules of Order and blah 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 blah. Basically decorum. what we used to call it today, etiquette. And my golly, so I have personally, I've sort of amongst all of the things that all the little organizations and initiatives I've had the privilege to lead in my career, I've personally adopted three values, three core values for talking to people. All right. One, respect. That's a very simple one, I think. We've at least Aretha Franklin taught us it really quite dazzlingly, if I say so myself. Two, do no harm. Again, I think that one kind of explains itself. Three, and I think this one is the one that we miss the most often. It's not always self-evident, but I propose it to be. Well, actually, I'm going to add one before that. Tricked you. Don't assume. Now, that one's almost kind of a funny little joke because we all know that we do assume. All right, so I say don't assume, but knowing that you're gonna assume. So I kind of always have a funny little way of saying, I say, you know what? When you assume, you out of you, and really, I what I say is when you assume, you out of, and because naturally, I assume that everybody's heard that fucking quote. And plus, I don't want to get banned in the library for saying a bad word, or from Facebook for that matter. Because Mama already said some bad words in the last broadcast, and I'm counting my lucky stars that the AI on Facebook hasn't caught it yet. Thank you, copyright Karen. We love you. Uh, but okay, that's number three was, you know, refrain from assumptions, but knowing that you're going to assume anyways, because let's be honest, not everybody has the time to check everything. You don't have time to save every single goddamn receipt for every single 99-cent purchase of a drink from the gas station, all right? You can't, that's unrealistic. So what you have to do is assume. But you have to know what assumptions, like you have to know where those assumptions end. That's the key. So you have to first of all be aware of your assumptions. And then you have to kind of almost it's kind of like finding, if it's like somebody who's been in a swimming pool before that doesn't know how to swim. It's like you have to like kind of gradually sort of tap dance your way down the pool, seeing the numbers get bigger and then you also have to know that there's a cliff soon. If the pool's got a proper diving well. Um, and so And no, and I guess I'm assuming myself by assuming that it does have a proper diving well. Some pools don't have a precipitous drop off. It's usually where the little kids kind of play, and for the reasons I kind of suggested in this whole example. So know where this is. Be aware of your assumptions, and also know how to feel out where those assumptions end. Know when those assumptions end. All right. I made that sound a lot more difficult than it really is, I think, in most cases. But you have to be aware of that process and you have to try. You have to try it. You have to try to you have to know your blind spots a little bit. And and that leads me sort of into the next, I'm gonna say number four here on my core values here of of proper obedient civil discourse slash etiquette. I'm gonna say this, and this is a big one I think that many of us in the queer community honestly need to fucking hear out. Is this do assume positive intention in others. Let me say that one again. Assume positive intention in others. Now, I know that almost sounds like it directly contradicts point number three, but if we sort of listened closely, you'll remember that I said we're gonna assume. We're gonna assume anyways. All right. Nothing to be ashamed of. In fact, I'm not. I'm a lazy bitch. All right. I don't like. If I can do something in the least amount of effort possible, I'm gonna choose that. All right, we know that. Again, don't be ashamed of it. Just admit it to yourself and work around that. No, work around that obstacle, girl. Um, and so that's and so I say number four is an easy one because it does it does sort of it does sort of it sort of allows us that one freebie. It's like the free space on bingo. You get to assume positive intention in people, and that's a nice thing to assume. That honestly, that number four helps bring joy into my soul a little bit because you have to remember that most people, even the really allegedly evil ones, want to be good. You know, we all consider ourselves the good guy naturally. Now, if you, well, I shouldn't see it. Here I am assuming that. So assume positive intention, but there are some people that are genuinely evil bitches. Evil, I can't say the word without evil cunts. And at the point in which you really, if at the point at which your assumption about them is proven true, then that's the point at which you get the fuck out of there. As in the wise words of Whoopi Goldberg, oh, uh I gotta make sure you're in danger, girl. That's what it was. Uh, well, I think it was something along that line. But basically, get out. Don't even fucking bother with the douchebag because he's now at this point, that now you're at the point where you're just being lured into a fucking. They're just trying to piss you off. They're not interested in conversation. They're just interested in pissing you off. So don't engage in that. Reject it altogether. Don't allow that behavior. Don't tolerate that type of behavior because you know why? Because that violates rule number one, which is the respect thing. Because that's the point at which you know they're not respecting you. You know. So get the fuck away from that shit, girl. Like you know better. You do. And Lord knows we've all had enough cases of people taking advantage of our time because we get goaded into a stupid little argument with a petulant little cunt. And so don't tempt you. Don't fall into that temptation. They're trying to fucking bait you in. Don't let them. So I think I have made my point clear on that one. Um, so shit, I'm high as fuck right now, if I'm being very honest. And this seems like y'all have been quiet again. Uh, no stars. Oh well, whatever. I'm too lazy now to fucking give a fuck about doing this any further. I've already told you in the last broadcast that I don't believe in the concept of artificial intelligence because, based on the definition of intelligence, how can there be a distinction made between what's artificial, what's real about it, and like what is artificial about it? I don't understand. I don't get it. I can sort of use the definition here in context of me being stoned as fuck, and therefore myself being the most artificially intelligent thing in this fucking library. So, on that note, kids, this has been Mike George. Thank you for listening in on this episode of Open Mic Live, part two of the series on artificial intelligence, AI, on this beautiful Saturday afternoon, the 13th of September, 2025, after David, not in the Oprah universe, in the non Oprah universe number 476. This has been Mike George here. Um, get the fuck outside. It's beautiful here in Columbus, Ohio, and God damn it, I'm gonna have to take advantage of this weather. That's why Mama's being off early. And we're gonna enjoy some fine weather tonight. This beautiful evening on Saturday in Columbus, Ohio. While you're doing that, take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. Julie, until next time, à la prochaine.